We got a two-parter here for you. Well, we're not watching a two-part. We are watching a two-parter, but we're not doing like both episodes today. We'll do the next part next week because that's how it's just set up for us. But yes,
correct.
This was a big old 1 hour special, and we're getting half of it today.
Mm-hmm.
Here on this week's episode of Jared and Now Watch Inuyasha is episode 135. I'm Jared, joined as always by Doc Al and Ladium.
Hello.
We are discussing season 5, episode 23, or episode 133, entitled "The Woman Who Loves Sesshomaru, Part 1."
Mm-hmm. Amir Raccoon.
It was Amir Raccoon that he showed up one time. We'll discuss that later, of course. Yeah, we meet the gang. They're on the beach hanging out, and Kagome wants to be very relaxed, but Inuyasha does not like the beach or the ocean. He hates how salty it smells. Kagome throws a stick at him, and he like runs after her like a dog. He's like, "Wait, stop treating me like a dog."
A dog.
They eventually leave, and then they go by this village, and there's this woman named Sarah who's dying, and she's like, "I gotta play the flute one more time." She goes,
dude, Sarah sucks at the flute. Like, she just plays some random ass notes, but like she doesn't actually play like a tune or a melody or anything. She's like, here's 5 notes for you.
I mean, she is dying, so.
I mean, that's fair, but also like if you're gonna be like, as I'm dying, I'm gonna play you a flute song. Like, don't play me 5 notes. Just die.
God. But anyways, yeah, she's playing it. There's people like looking over a fence, watching her, and then Inuyasha and the gang walk by, and she sees Inuyasha. She's like, "Oh, I have one regret. Oh no!" And then they all leave.
No.
They all leave, and they're like, "Huh, there was a weird demonic aura that we just felt. That was weird." And Inuyasha's like, "Ah, it doesn't matter. Don't worry about it. Doesn't have anything to do with us. Let's go." And then they see a building on fire. And they're like, "Oh, we should probably go back and see that." And then they just watch the building burn down. And they're like, "Oh, Sarah was in the building, and now her body's gone. Oh no!" And they're like, "Okay, cool." Anyways.
And the wild thing is like, oh look, this is where Sarah's body was lying, and there's no char marks, and it's just like this weird outline. Like, all right, cool. I guess nothing weird about this, my friends. Da 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 da. Moving on.
Mm-hmm. We see Sesshomaru and his gang walking through a valley. Ren and Jockin are just doing tongue twisters because nothing else is going on. Jockin's like, "Oh God, are we ever gonna find Naraku? Oh boy." And then they hear a flute, and Sesshomaru just like stops in his tracks, and Sarah's like, "Hey, do you remember me? I was from Asano Castle." And he's like, And we get this flashback of like there was this fight at this castle, and the people at the castle were preparing to like be destroyed, and Sesshomaru shows up and just like kills everyone, and then Sarah's like watching, like, "Ooh." And then we go back to the present time, and Sesshomaru's like, "Yeah, I don't know who you are. See ya." And she's like, "Wait a minute, I can get you what you want the most." And he's like, "Huh?" And Jockin's like, "You idiot, you can't do that. You're a mere mortal." And
also makes fun of her for looks at one point. He's like, "Yeah, it's amazing what face powder can do."
Yeah, because Ren's like, "Oh, she was very pretty," and he's like, "Yeah, it's real wild what powder can do for a face and all that sort of stuff." The castle thing is where we see, or we hear, or I guess we see in the subtitles, Amir Raccoon has appeared, which was the dude said a miracle has like appeared or something, but for some reason the subtitles like it's Amir Raccoon,
Amir Raccoon,
which was very funny.
Can you imagine? They're just like, "Oh, Amir Raccoon," and Sesshomaru is just out there murdering people, and they're like, "A raccoon. Look at that. Look at him go."
But yeah, Sarah,
very, very violent raccoon.
Very, very violent Mir Raccoon. Sarah said she can fulfill Sesshomaru's wishes, and Jockin's like, "No," and Sesshomaru's like, "Nah, shut up. Go do what you want, I guess, whatever." And then Jockin's like, that was a weird human. Don't you think so, Ren? And Ren's like, "Yeah, weird human." And then Sesshomaru's like, "Yo, that wasn't a human." And they're like, "What?"
No human.
Anyways, Inuyasha's gang are still just walking across the beach and just chilling, and they see a weird demon in the sea, and there's a lady tied up, and they're like, "We should go save her."
Moroku's like, "Young lady, I will help you." So I was like, God. Yes, I gotta go after him.
Inuyasha's like, "Oh, we gotta save someone else. Wait, why are you guys on my back?" Kagome's like, "We gotta go!
Giddy up!"
Roku and Sango get there first, and they're about to defend this lady from the demon, but then they get turned to stone, or not stone, glass or ice or whatever. And then Inuyasha and them show up, and then Shippo's like, they're still alive, and the girl's like, oh, it's the water god. Clearly, you gotta get the water god. It's a curse. So Inuyasha kills this demon and it just turns into seaweed. He's like, that's weird. And then Roku and Sango are still not turned back to normal, so he's just like, that's weird. And then this lady's like, oh, we should take these statues to my village and stuff. And then everyone in the village is like that as well. She's like, oh no, it's the curse of the water god. Oh no, what could it be? Maybe we gotta go destroy the shrine. And then they're like, all right, I guess. So they go to the shrine. There's a big screw in it that you gotta get a giant flathead screwdriver to unlock. Inuyasha tries to like do it manually and it doesn't work, and she's like, oh, put a tool in there like your sword. And he's like, okay, I guess. And then somehow it starts working, and Shippo the whole time's like, I don't know about this lady. And he starts whispering into Kagome's ear like, hey, this lady's giving me the creeps. She's like smiling as Inuyasha's loosening this boulder, and then like, did you see how like the statues were looking at her when they got turned there? Wouldn't it be if like it was the demon, they'd be looking out the sea? Isn't that weird? And Kuma's like, yeah, that is kind of weird. Maybe we should say something to Inuyasha, or we should just stand there and wait for him to finish and then be like, oh wait, don't do it.
Yeah, I was like, guys, stop whispering at each other and tell him to stop. But no. Also, a little bit back, Inuyasha, before he like takes out the sea god man, Kagome's like, you can't kill a god. He's like, I don't care. I'll kill a god. Whatever. Let's do this. It was pretty funny. I was like, okay, well, Inuyasha is a YOLO guy.
Does not care.
Does not care. He's like, I'll kill a god. This is fine.
So yeah, he loosens that boulder, and then everything starts coming down on him. He can't get the Tetsaiga back, and he's like, "Oh no!" And then a rock squishes the lady. She turns into seaweed, and they're like, "Oh, that's uh-oh."
Uh-oh.
And then a big bird appears out of nowhere, and she's on top of the bird, and she does a Yakuza disrobing from her shoulder, and it's like, I got other clothes on underneath this. Also, I have the Tetsaiga.
Hehehe.
You were very excited about the Yakuza thing, though.
It was pretty good. I mean, she just straight up Yakuza. It was great.
But yeah, she's like that. She's like, I got the Tetsaiga now. You can't get it. Me, me, me. And then Sesshomaru shows up at the end. Everyone's like, why are you here? And he's just looking very disapprovingly at old Sarah on top of the bird.
Yep.
And that's how we end part one of this two-parter hour long episode.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get the rest next time. We saw some stuff that happens next week. Like, I guess Sarah and Sesshomaru are gonna fight at some point.
Yeah, so.
Probably because Sesshomaru's gonna be like, yeah, I don't want to get the Tetsaiga this way. I want to do it by myself, Also, like, she knows about this because she was like creeping on him as like after he got defeated by Inuyasha, because the beginning of this episode is also like a big like, hey, here's the story of how Inuyasha and Sesshomaru are like don't like each other, and it's like, yo, that was like, we watched these episodes like 2 years ago. Come on, what are you doing? This is filler.
And they gave like the whole backstory of it, of like, we don't need all of this. We don't need to go through every single beat on why Inuyasha and Sesshomaru do not get along.
No, like, especially like the whole thing of like, oh, the Tetsaiga is going to get taken. It's like, no, it's not. We know it's not. This is filler. Come on. But yeah, that's how we end this episode. I'm gonna guess that, like I said, Sesshomaru's going to be like, nah, I don't want this sword this way. I gotta get it myself. I gotta beat my dumb brother.
Yeah, that's my guess, is he just wants it fair and square.
Yeah. We have one error.
Oh, an error.
It says, as the samurai in the green armor holds the sword, I guess this is the one that like Sesshomaru fights at the end there, in the flashback. It holds the sword, but it has another sword on the sheath rather than one sword out of the sheath.
What?
So I guess he has the sword out, but then like on him there's a sword within a sheath as well. But if he had just one sword there, it should just be out instead of being one in there and then him holding another.
I see. Okay.
Unless he maybe he just had two, and he's like,
maybe he had two.
Pulled the other one out and just flung the sheath somewhere.
Maybe. I don't know.
It's
maybe
possible.
he just got so frazzled that he flung the sheath. Maybe he ate it.
Maybe. You never know.
You never know.
But yeah, that's going to do it for us this week. Next time we will be discussing part 2 of this episode, which will be episode 134. And we'll see how everything wraps up here. So that's going to do it for us this week. So if you'd like more from us, head on over to seasonalanimecheckup.com or sac.cool where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Seasonal Anime Checkup OVA. You'll also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. You can follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Anime Checkup. You can follow us on Blue Sky at seasonalanimecheckup.com. You can buy our books, One Shiny Moment, a critical analysis of Love, Life, Sunshine, Hot Tubs, and Pac-Man on Amazon.com. And you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. So join us next time as we finish out this 2-parter 1-hour special.
Wow.